let's get into some pieces. I've got his core beliefs, want to talk about them and how they're going to funnel into this defense. So his core beliefs, and for those who don't know, I know a lot of people know he played for the Buffalo Bills, and then played for Rex Ryan at the Jets. But his big stop and change for me was in 2008. He went to Baltimore and was the starting safety opposite of Ed Reed. That's where he cut his teeth with Rex Ryan before jumping with him to the Jets. He was sweet in 2008 with the Ravens, that team with a rookie Flacco that went to the AFC Championship. They beat the 1 seed Tennessee in Tennessee 13-10. I think Leonhard had an interception in that game or a big fumble recovery or something. And made a couple good plays there. So he is a bit of a Rex Ryan guy, which I don't think should have a negative connotation. Defensive coordinator Rex Ryan is tremendous and fantastic. And his defense and Dick LeBeau's defense are what shaped me as a little kid and my defensive philosophy and what I gravitate towards too aesthetically. But Jim Leonhard, one of the big quotes he goes off with is he attributes this quote to Rex Ryan, who he even says like he may have taken from someone else. But Jim Leonhard says, quote, "Football is a simple game complicated by coaches." And he gives that to Rex Ryan. So starting off with his core beliefs there and tying into that quote, for Jim Leonhard, players need to learn to think for themselves. Becoming adaptable as a player is extremely invaluable. What he wants to do as a coach and what he thinks you should do as coaches, you try to expose players to the multitude of scenarios they'll face in games, knowing that you're outside the white lines on game day and they have to do it themselves. You are counting on guys to step up and improve in positive ways. You have to give them room to grow and room to think. I think that sets the table for his entire philosophy, where he is about preparation and consistency and giving players the tools to be able to grow and think and adjust and make plays. So it's about being prepared and teaching guys and coaching guys, but not so much to the point where you're overloaded and there's too much happening on you mentally to the point where you can't play fast because you're so bogged down in your thought process that you can't adjust. Like it switches from a 3-by-1 to a 2-by-2, where there's a leverage change or a formational change or a motion change. And all of a sudden everybody's frantically trying to figure out what they're going to do. And you've got checks on top of checks and it's too much. And it all just compounds. So he wants to give players room to grow and room to think. And there's a fine line between doing that and giving them what they need, but not bogging them down too much mentally. He's walked that line very well. His 4 core beliefs, again, tying into those quotes there: consistency, efficiency, flexibility, and response versus the opportunity to learn. So consistency, breaking that down into pieces. The goal for consistency: you want your players to play as fast as possible, as physical as possible, and as confident as possible. And he says the majority of coaching takes away from those things. So how do you get your players to play as fast and as physical and as confident as possible? It starts with your coaching style, being the same guy on a daily basis as far as your approach and how you handle your players, your communication, your energy, being that same guy on a daily basis. Teaching progression. How do you give your information to your players to learn a skill, or a defense? Is it consistent? Do your players know what to expect? Terminology. He talks about always making things cleaner. So like one word, players know what it is. It clicks in their brain. We don't want to get too convoluted, too messy, too muddy. Routine, daily and weekly, understanding how to get to the second level, third level, how to get to those next level things faster. And then game preparation. This is a great quote. He says, "We are very complex in what we do in many people's eyes, but with how I ask our guys to coach it and the consistency that we have in how we coach and teach, I think it makes it simple for our guys and they trust what we do." Again, I think this one's so very poignant and important. We are very complex in what we do in many people's eyes, but with how I ask our guys to coach it and the consistency that we have in how we coach and teach, I think it makes it simple for our guys and they trust what we do, right? So giving the players the tools, but presenting it in a way that's easy to learn and easy for them to go and think and react and play fast mentally, which allows you to play fast physically. And then kind of wrapping that up piece, he talks about what can you effectively get your guys to do on a consistent basis. Anything more than that is a waste, and you're not really doing your players justice as far as what you're trying to get accomplished. If you're not doing that, if you're not putting the game in their hands to let them win for you, that's it for him too. Again, that ties into the giving players room to grow and room to think. He wants to put the game in his players' hands and let them win for you, right? And that means you are setting them up for success. You're preparing them well. You're giving them the tools to adapt and adjust in games. Sean McVay said something similar. I saw this on social the last couple of weeks. He talked about capability versus capacity, I think is what it was. And capability is, I can give you a direction and you can go execute exactly what I'm telling you. But capacity is the ability to learn and understand that and adjust on the fly and be able to be fluid in the moment. I'm paraphrasing that. That's what Jim Leonhard is, right? Putting the game in his players' hands and let them winning it for you. And you do that by giving them good prep, good intel, coaching them, setting them up for success, but then not bogging them down and overloading them too much where they mentally kind of short circuit and can't do anything. We saw that happen more often than you would have liked in the Sean McDermott stead. So that's the consistency core belief. The next one is efficiency. He says this one's short, clean, and easy. Not a first in, last out type of guy. He believes that you find any ways as possible to do your job as well as you can and as efficiently as you can. Always challenge yourself to do better. Don't waste time. Doing your job, not just doing your job, but doing your job better and quicker. And how can you get your players better faster? Instead of getting player A better by year 3, can you get him better by year 2? Or, midway through year 2 or towards the end of year 1? Do your job better and quicker. And how can you get your players better faster? This next bullet is arguably probably my favorite one of his core beliefs: flexibility. So again, his base defense is a tight front. His nickel defense is a 4 down, over or under front. He implemented both. And usually that nickel defense, especially at Wisconsin, was a 2-4-5, 2 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and then your 5 DBs for the nickel. And the points within his flexibility: you build a sound scheme, and then you build in flexibility for complex problems. Less calls, more possible adjustments, which he believes calms our guys down. We can teach the basis of what we do. We can teach all of the finer details and then have minor adjustments to what we do. And this is very important. This next line I'm about to read, tied to the game planning aspect and the matchup component of playing an offense, right? Rather than have more on top of more, we start with almost bare bones and then add to a game plan based on what the issues we're going to see, based on how we can dictate. So that ties, and then he goes into that counterpuncher line that I read earlier in the episode to kind of lead things off. I love that, though. So rather than have more on top of more, we start with almost bare bones and then add to a game plan based on what the issues we're going to see, and based on what the issues we're going to see are, and based on how we can dictate. So he doesn't go into the same game. He doesn't go into different games. It's, oh, that's good from Chap here. Coach here, I said, it's not what coaches, it's a far they can teach and the players can use. I think there's a typo there, and I'm confused on what to say. I have an idea of what you're getting at, and I like it. But yeah, so for Jim Leonhard, it's not, okay, here's a new game plan, stack and stack and stack. He almost strips it down. They almost start with bare bones, like he said, and then they add to the game plan based on the issues we're going to see. And that means from the offense, right? Are they a heavy personnel team? Are they a spread team? Are they a run team? Are they a run team and it's a zone scheme? Is it a gap scheme? Are they an under-centered run team, a shotgun run game? Do they work in pistol? How much do they use play action? What are their passing concepts? Do they push the ball downfield? Are they a quick game type of team? There's even more going from there, right? But when you take that game plan, when you start with almost bare bones and then add to the game plan based on what the issues are you're going to see, and then based on how you can dictate and punch them and attack from that first ding in the first round, that's what he is. That's what he believes. And again, I think that's what helps the players. Like he said, like, it calms our guys down. You can teach the basis of what we do, teach all the finer details, and then have minor adjustments to what you do. So who you are is still there, but you almost strip it down to go to the bare bones of your sound scheme, and then build the flexibility from there and build the game plan from there based on the opponent, based on the matchups and what they do. There's the comment from Chap, from Coach. I figured you would edit there and there. It's spot on. He says, it's not what coaches know, it's what they can teach, so the players can play with less thinking and play fast. 1,000%. You can't, sometimes teaching more is nice, but your players have to be able to handle, getting taught more, and they need to be able to put it into practical application on the field. Having a ton of different calls and checks and structures and schemes and all these things are only good if the players can execute it, right? And it's only as good if the coaches can teach it, exactly to your point, right? Like, it's not just what the coaches know. You have to be able to teach it. You have to be able to implement it. You have to be able to coach it. You have to be able to install it and adjust it and figure out the problems when, things happen to it. All of those things. Spoken like a coach. Well said. I like that. Thank you for editing it too. I appreciate you. So yeah, I love that flexibility piece. And that flexibility, I think, stems through everything for him, right? It's in his defensive structure. It's in his, the type of players that he brings in or uses or gravitates towards. And it's in his game planning. It's in his mentality. It's in his play calling, preparation, all of that. Flexibility. Flexibility is so important in today's NFL. I know it may seem like low hanging fruit or non-revelatory to say, or it might not seem important, but it is. Being in an ideal world, any football team, offensively, defensively, holistically, you are whoever you need to be every week to beat whatever opponent you're playing. If you need to be a heavy run team this week, if you can be that, awesome. If you need to be a heavy run team next week, but more gap scheme or more zone versus what you were the past week, awesome. If you need to be spread and go true empty or live in 11 or 10 personnel and attack an offense or a defense the next week, cool. And then same thing on the other side of the ball. You're playing an offense that wants to run it down your throat. You need to be able to stop the run this week to win. Cool, you can do that. You're playing an offense the next week that wants to throw it 35, 40 times and chuck it around the park. You got to be able to defend that. The next week, you're playing a team that has an extremely mobile quarterback and they want to go read option all day and do all this stuff with changing the math in the box. You got to be able to account for that. All of those things, right, tie into being flexible, being able to be like water. I love that quote from Bruce Lee. I think it's so applicable in football and anything, right? Water takes the shape of whatever it's in, right? If it's in a river, it flows within the embankment of the river. If you put it into a cup, it becomes the cup. Be like water. It means be fluid, be adaptable, be adjustable, be flexible. That's a hugely important thing in football in general, but especially in today's NFL with all the multiplicity you see across the league and where the league is at from a game planning and structural standpoint offensively and how the pendulum swings towards the offense and the defensive meta every offseason. You got to be able to go and be who you need to be each week in order to beat an opponent. And he's so good with that. So yeah, the flexibility, huge piece. So again, we talked about consistency, efficiency, flexibility. The last one is response versus the opportunity to learn. And he breaks this down in two ways, in the moment and reflective. So he says in the moment, this is where you have one opportunity for a response. This is, next play, next drive type of deal. If you're a corner and you just got beat on a pass or your linebacker just missed a tackle, whatever, you have the opportunity in the moment for a response. You need to respond immediately. How do you react to that current situation of adversity? And once that next play or that next drive is done, it's time to reflect. And then when you're reflecting and you're getting to that reflective stage, it could be in the same game. It could be in the middle of the week when you're watching film, adjusting, right? Reflecting is like a debriefing. What lessons did you learn? How did you handle your responses? What was your response in the moment? And when you look back, are you going to grow? So what do you do in the moment? What did you learn from what you did in the moment? And when you look back, are you growing from that? And how are you going forward? So a couple other pieces. His man coverage principles are all about winning positions, eye discipline, and again, flexibility. I also pulled a quote from last offseason when he was joining the Broncos, and he talked about defensive backs having versatility. He says, quote, you need versatility, whether it's flexibility between corners, safeties, being able to play outside, inside. You can't hide guys anymore. You have to be able to communicate and think. If you can't play inside the numbers, they just throw their best receiver in there and work those matchups. So flexibility is very important. Positional versatility. Again, some of it comes with the hybridized nature of what he is structurally and schematically and all of that.